Today I'm going to try to draw this small chapel thing in Tbilisi, Georgia. At least I think that's what it is. And this video is just wacky. It started raining in the middle of the recording, as you'll see, so I had to pause and take shelter before the paper got soaked. The tripod was knocked over at some point, but luckily my wife is a ninja and grabbed it in midair and magically recentered it without missing a beat. And the drawing is all over the place for reasons we'll probably get into right now. But first, have you ever thought, gee, I wish there was some way of showing this stranger who makes incrementally less mediocre drawings on the internet that I appreciate and support him in his little art project. Introducing the subscribe button. Press it and your wish will be granted. The best part, it's free of charge. And once it's done, you never have to think about it again. Already subscribed? Sick. Maybe consider leaving a comment or something. I don't know, do whatever you want. Okay, so first of all, I do something here that has worked for me reasonably well in the past that I think was a dumb, stupid, bad decision. Can you guess what it is? Correct. I started with this pillar here on the left. Why is that dumb and bad and stupid? I'll tell you. This framing that you're seeing on the left is centrally composed, and it's a single point perspective. Thankfully, during my time doing this, I've learned what that means, and it's just that everything pretty much converges at one point at my eye line. So for what you're seeing, it would be somewhere around the middle of the little chapel door, approximately. So if you were to trace your finger from, say, the top of the left pillar, where you can see one side of it angling down, you'd reach the middle of that door. You do it again, but this time on the other pillar, and then you can do it from the bottom of the pillars, the top of the doorway, etc. So everything exactly at my eye level will sit on a perfectly horizontal line. Horizontal, horizon. Get it? And the further up or down I move from that line, the more dramatic those angles will be, as they will all point to the same point. That is, as long as those lines are straight and parallel to the ground and whatnot. So why did I just spend all that time talking to you about one point perspective? Well, because I know it's a neat little tool that I understand how to use, yet I didn't use it. Not because I thought it wouldn't be useful, but because I forgot. It's that simple. I learned a thing, I forgot the thing, so instead I decided to pretty much just wing it by starting with the pillar. Honestly, that's not a terrible idea, I guess, but by starting here, it means I need to trust myself to accurately eyeball everything else. So the angles at the top and the bottom of the pillar aren't a huge concern. If they're a little wrong, I won't mind, or candidly even notice. But it's the other pillar that I worry about. It's the rest of the archway that I worry about. And primarily, it's the little chapel itself that I worry about the most. Why? Because now I kind of have to work backwards into it. If I were to do this over again, I'd start by marking the center point and maybe that horizon line. Then based on that, I could draw the doorway. From there, I could approximately measure things against that door and ultimately use my center point to get all of the correct heights and angles for the pillars and all the rest of it. I think it would have made for a much more seamless and accurate representation of the scene. With that said, is any of that true? Had I started with all of that artistic mumbo jumbo, would my drawing have been any better? I'm really not so sure. In fact, whenever I go the slow, methodical route, I get myself into trouble. I've spent a huge chunk of my time in these drawings just going with my gut, eyeballing things, going on vibes or whatever, and that usually works out for me better than all the precise stuff. Regardless, it bothers me that it completely slipped my mind, especially because it's one of the simplest techniques when it comes to stuff like this. It's as basic as it gets, and maybe it would have been nice to have in my back pocket when the scale started getting away from me. I don't know. Anyway, that's not even my major qualm with this one. I have two other things that kind of drive me crazy. and I wonder if they're obvious or not to you. The first is the dome. It's pretty stretched, and when I see it side by side with the reference, it gets under my skin. It doesn't ruin the drawing by itself, but the real thing is so subtle and elegant, whereas mine is not. It's something else. The second thing that kind of bothers me is the shading. I've been talking about shading for a very long time in a lot of different ways, and I always say it's finally time to get serious about it, but then I forget, and I don't need it as much for a while, and so I never do. And maybe today is another example of that, but whatever. The shading here honestly kind of ruins this for me, because like a minute or so back, I was really loving the way this was looking. And then I had to go and mess it up. Because at the time, in the moment, I wasn't really loving the way this was looking. I actually thought I was salvaging it with the shading. Idiot. I've said this a couple times recently, but I really need to take a breath and look away for a second, or else I'm going to continue messing with my drawings more than they ever need messing with, especially with regard to shading. So that's that. Overall, this has some things about it that I'm really not a fan of, as you know, but some other things that I think push me forward in a way. I don't really like it, but I definitely don't hate it. All of these elements put together would make for a just horrific drawing 2 months ago, but they all kind of work a tiny bit better today. The arches and the pathway together especially both remind me of a drawing from Krakow that was practically ruined by those things. Whereas here, I think those things work out okay. But anyway, I'd love to hear what you think about this one. And if you're having a good time here, consider subscribing to the channel. That would be awesome. And if you like this video, go ahead and like it. Anyway, I appreciate you for taking the time to watch this one, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.